Hello everyone, welcome to Static GK, quiz number 112. This video is aimed to help you with your central and state government job examinations. I'm Ritrisha from GKToday and I'll be taking you through this. Who among the following established the Sadar Diwani Adalat? The Sadar Diwani Adalat was the Supreme Court of Revenue in British India, established at Calcutta by Warren Hastings in 1772. It was reformed in 1780 and again in 1793 by the British Parliament. The court's judges were the Governor-General and council members of the East India Company, assisted by native judges and officers of revenue. The court was established to allow Hindu Indians to be governed by Hindu law in matters of property and not as before by Muslim law, although they were still subject to Muslim criminal law. The court was abolished after the Indian Revolt of 1857. Which of the following acts created Supreme Court of Judiciary at Fort William? The correct answer is the Regulating Act of 1773, which established a Supreme Court at Fort William, Calcutta. The Supreme Court consisted of one Chief Justice and three other regular judges. Sir Elijah M.V. was the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The East India Company was deprived of monopoly of trade with India except tea trade by which among the following act? The correct answer is Charter Act of 1813. The Charter Act of 1813 ended the monopoly of East India Company in India. However, the company's monopoly in trade with China and trade in tea with India was kept intact. Thus, the trade with India for all commodities except tea was thrown open to all British subjects. This lasted till 1833, when the next charter abolished the trade of the company. By which among the following acts the East India Company lost its monopoly of trade with China? The correct answer is the Charter Act of 1833. Charter Act of 1833 or the St. Helena Act of 1833 was passed by the British Parliament to renew the Charter of East India Company, which was last renewed in 1813. Via this act, the charter was renewed for 20 years, but the East India Company was deprived of its commercial privileges which it enjoyed so far. The dual government introduced by Pitt's India Act continued to operate in India until it was abolished by which act? The correct answer is Government of India Act 1858, which marked the beginning of a new chapter in the constitutional history of India. The Act is also known as the Act for Good Government of India, provided for liquidation of East India Company and transferred the powers of government, territories and revenues to the British Crown. Government of India Act 1858 provided that India was to be governed directly and in the name of the Crown. This Act abolished the company rule, abolished the Court of Directors and abolished the Board of Control. This Act abolished the dual government introduced by the Pitt's India Act. The principle of doctrine of lapse was withdrawn. Liberty was given to Indian rulers subject to British sovereignty, and it also opened some door for Indians in government services. The Constitution of India derives its ultimate authority from where? The correct answer is the people of India. The Constitution draws its authority from the people and has been promulgated in the name of the people. This is evident from the preamble which states, "We, the people of India, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution." This implies that the direct authority of people cannot be claimed or usurped by the legislature. Under the Constitution, legislature is a representative body, but people constitute the ultimate sovereign. Consider the following matches. Elements in Indian Constitution to the source constitutions. 1. Concurrent list to Australian Constitution. 2. Directive principle to Irish Constitution. 3. Fundamental rights to US Constitution. Which among the above matches are correct? For that, let us first look at the influence of other constitutions. So let us now match. So first is concurrent list, which is claimed here that it was taken from the Australian Constitution. If we go to the Australia section in the picture, we see that concurrent list is there. Now we come to directive principle, which we find in the Irish Constitution in this list, and fundamental rights, which comes from the Constitution of the United States. Therefore, all three are correct. Which among the following features of Constitution of India is derived from Weimar Constitution of Germany? Let us go back once. So here if you see in the other constitution section, the emergency provision under Article 356 is from the Weimar Constitution. So the correct answer here is suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. Who among the following was the constitutional advisor to the Constituent Assembly? The correct answer is Jurist B.N. Rao, who was appointed constitutional advisor to the Assembly. Rao prepared the original draft of the Constitution and was later appointed a judge in the Permanent Court of International Justice in The Hague. In which year were Union Territories introduced in India? Let's take a look at the picture. The State Reorganization Act takes effect in 1956, where 14 states and 6 union territories are formed on linguistic lines. So the correct answer is 1956. So reorganization of states on linguistic lines included abolition of Class A, B, C, D states and introduction of union territories by Constitution 7th Amendment Act. That's all for today's quiz. Until the next video, goodbye.